My name is Ella, and at 28 years old, I thought I had finally escaped the emotional servitude that defined my youth. After 10 years of building a life on my own terms, I made the mistake of answering the family group chat. The message was an invoice for 6,000 Zelzend. When I questioned it, my sister Ashley simply replied, "You owe us." I stared at the screen, the glowing white text of the invoice hanging in the silence of my condo. 101 p.m. The request wasn't just for money. It was for a piece of my future demanded by a past I had worked meticulously to escape. 2 years of peace, shattered by an entitled text message. I didn't cry. I didn't feel the hot sting of anger in my chest. The feeling that rose within me was cold, crystalline, and sharp. It was clarity. For years, I had been the silent investor in their version of family, funding their emotional deficits and logistical nightmares with my time, my energy, and my money. My compassion had been a luxury they'd overdrafted for years. Tonight, the account was being closed. I walked to my home office and opened my laptop. The screen's glow illuminated my face. But I felt nothing. My fingers moved across the keyboard, with a purpose they hadn't known before. I opened a new spreadsheet. The cursor blinked in cell 01. In the first column, I typed date. In the second, service rendered. In the third, market value. My memory, once a source of quiet pain, was now a pristine archive of transactions. I started typing. August 4 years ago. Emergency babysitting for Ashley's Fashion Expo trip. I logged it as 72 hours at a professional nanny rate of $25 an hour. That was 1-800. Christmas 3 years ago. Unpaid inventory and shipping clerk for Ashley's holiday rush. I logged 40 hours. A fulfillment specialist earns at least $20 an hour. Another 800. The list grew. Driving mom to 5 different stores for Ashley's curtains. I billed it as a personal chauffeur service. 5 hours at $50 an hour. 250. The tools in it I loaned Ashley for her first website design. A debt she conveniently forgot as soon as the site went live. The 800 I paid to fix Dad's car 2 winters ago when he couldn't afford the repair. I added plane tickets for family emergencies that were never emergencies. Catered dinners I'd paid for that they barely acknowledged. Graduation gifts, birthday gifts, and the constant draining emotional labor of being their perpetual on-call problem solver. I assigned a conservative value to everything. This wasn't about revenge. It was accounting. At 11:58 p.m. I clicked the sum function. The final number glowed at the bottom of the spreadsheet. The 14,250. I saved the file as Ledger Clark Family Outstanding PDF. I returned to the family group chat. The message from Ashley was still there, expectant and demanding. I tapped the paperclip icon and attached the PDF. Then I typed a single calm sentence regarding your invoice for 6,000. Please see the attached statement of your outstanding balance with me. Once my larger invoice is settled in full, I would be happy to discuss extending you a new line of credit. Terms and conditions to be determined. I hit send at 12:03 a.m. My phone immediately began to vibrate, a frantic buzzing seizure on the marble countertop. Ashley, mom. Then dad, a rare participant. A flurry of notifications lit up the screen. What is this? Is this a joke, Ella? You need to call me right now. I didn't answer a single one. I silenced my phone and poured a glass of water, my hand perfectly steady. I rubbed my eyes, trying to summon a shred of guilt or regret, but there was only clarity. They weren't shocked by what they'd done. They were shocked I'd finally sent them the bill. This wasn't a breakdown. It was a balance sheet. And for the first time in my life, I was on the right side of the ledger. I woke the next morning to the persistent buzz of my silenced phone on the nightstand. 27 missed calls, 43 new text messages. The sun was streaming through my blinds, casting stripes of light across the floor. But the digital onslaught felt like a storm cloud gathering just for me. I didn't check the messages. I didn't need to. I already knew their contents by heart. A rotating script of disbelief, outrage, and accusations of selfishness. Instead, I made coffee the familiar aroma, grounding me in the present in this life I had built for myself brick by painful brick. As the coffee brewed, the memories that fueled last night's spreadsheet began to surface, not as painful wounds, but as cold, hard evidence. I remembered standing in my parents' kitchen 2 years ago. The scent of roast chicken and cherry pie, thick in the air. Food I had spent all morning preparing. I got a promotion I'd announced to the room. My voice clear, but not loud. Senior clinical specialist. They're transferring me to the Raleigh office. No one had looked up. The drone of the baseball game on TV. Ashley's live stream sales pitched. To her followers, mom chasing one of the kids through the hallway. My life-altering news evaporated into the household noise completely unheard. I remembered the hollow feeling in my chest. The familiar disappointment that had grown so common it no longer surprised me. It wasn't that they were just distracted. It was that my life, my accomplishments were simply not on their frequency. Ashley's 2000 sales day, announced minutes later, was met with cheers and beaming smiles. My 15% raise and relocation bonus earned nothing. That was the pattern, wasn't it? My existence was background noise until a service was required. I was the reliable, invisible infrastructure of the family, the unpaid caterer for every holiday, the on-call babysitter so Ashley could pursue her dreams, the emergency fund. For every one of their poor decisions, I took a sip of coffee, the warmth spreading through me. A stark contrast to the icy resolve that had settled in my heart. They hadn't called on my last birthday. Not one of them. When I finally called mom that evening, her voice was rushed. "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. I meant to call. Ashley's having another crisis with the boutique, and I've been on the phone with her all day." A crisis. There was always a crisis. Ashley's business, Ashley's kids, Ashley's drama. It was the sun around which their entire solar system revolved. I was a distant cold moon only, noticed when my gravitational pull could be used to solve one of their problems. Last night wasn't an isolated incident. It was the culmination of a lifetime of transactions where I was the only one paying. My ledger wasn't an act of revenge. It was a declaration of existence. It was proof that my time, my labor, and my money had value even if they had never seen it. For the first time, I wasn't just asking to be seen. I was demanding to be paid. The barrage of texts and calls continued for 2 days. When their initial shock and anger failed to get a response, the strategy shifted. On the third morning, my phone rang. It was Mom. This time I answered, putting the call on speaker as I watered my plants. "Ella. Oh, thank God, you answered. I've been so worried." Her voice was thick with manufactured tears, a tone I recognized as her opening salvo in any campaign of guilt. "I'm fine, Mom," I said, my voice neutral. "Fine. How can you be fine? Your sister is a wreck. She hasn't slept. Do you have any idea what you've done to her?" I trimmed a dead leaf from my monstera. I sent her a statement of services rendered. It's a standard business practice. Business, this is family. The tears were gone now, replaced by a sharp, wounded edge. "After everything we've done for you, we raised you, we fed you, we gave you a home. Yes, you did the bare minimum required of parents. I'm grateful for that," I said calmly. "But that doesn't entitle you to a lifetime of my indentured servitude." There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end. "Indentured, Ella. Who has been putting these ideas in your head? Is it that new life you have? You've changed. You've become so cold, so selfish." "I haven't become selfish," I corrected her gently. "I've just stopped being selfless to my own detriment." "There's a difference. Your sister needs you," she pleaded, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "The boutique failed, Ella. She's in a terrible amount of debt. We were just hoping with your new job and that big promotion, you could help her, help us," and there it was. The truth wrapped in a blanket of emotional blackmail. My success wasn't a cause for their celebration. It was a resource for their exploitation. "My finances are my own, Mom, as Ashley's are her own," I said, my voice leaving no room for negotiation. "I've attached my invoice. If she'd like to discuss a payment plan for her outstanding balance of $14,250, she can contact me via email." "You can't be serious," she whispered, her tone laced with disbelief. "I've never been more serious in my life," I replied. "Now, if that's all, I have a meeting to prepare for." I hung up before she could respond. My heart beating a steady rhythmic drum. The guilt I had expected to feel, that old familiar phantom, was absent. In its place was a profound, unshakable sense of rightness. They had escalated with emotion. Now it was my turn to escalate with something they would understand, even better: formality. The phone call with my mother was a turning point. It proved they would never see my boundaries as valid. They would only see them as obstacles to be overcome with more manipulation. Emotional appeals had failed, so they would likely try something else. I had to get ahead of it. That afternoon, I spent an hour on the phone with a lawyer specializing in family law and harassment. I explained the situation with the same clinical detachment I'd used to build my spreadsheet. I recounted the years of financial and emotional demands, the recent 6,000 invoice, and the subsequent campaign of calls and messages. It sounds like you need to establish a clear and legally defensible boundary. The lawyer, a woman named Miss Albright, said, her voice crisp and professional. A strongly worded cease and desist letter is the appropriate first step. It will put them on formal notice that any further contact outside of written correspondence regarding the settlement of their debt to you will be considered harassment. That's exactly what I want, I said. Miss Albright drafted the letter that same day. It was a masterpiece of cold legal prose. It referenced specific dates and times of their unwanted contact. It outlined my legal right to peace and privacy. It stated in no uncertain terms that direct communication via phone, text, or in-person visits was to stop immediately. All future correspondence was to be directed to her office. I read the draft and a sense of profound relief washed over me. This document was the armor I'd never had. It took my personal no and transformed it into a legal barricade. I had her send it via certified mail to my parents' house and to Ashley's address. The silence that followed was immediate and absolute. For a full week my phone didn't ring. No notifications lit up my screen. The quiet was so complete it was almost jarring. For a moment, I allowed myself to hope that it was over, that the stark finality of a legal document had finally gotten the message through their thick wall of entitlement. I should have known better. They weren't retreating. They were just regrouping for a more desperate, more dangerous assault. The quiet lasted 9 days. On the 10th day, I was in a meeting at work when my phone vibrated with an alert from my credit monitoring service. I glanced down, expecting it to be a routine score update. The text on the screen made my blood run cold. Fraud alert. A credit card application with a 20,000 limit was submitted in your name with capital 1. If this was not you, please contact us immediately. My breath caught in my chest. It took a moment for my brain to process the information. I excused myself from the meeting, my hands shaking slightly as I stepped into the hallway and dialed the number. The automated system confirmed the details, and online application submitted 20 minutes ago using my name, my social security number, and my date of birth. The only piece of information that wasn't mine was the mailing address. It was Ashley's. The clarity I had felt before returned, but this time it was razor sharp, honed to a lethal point. This wasn't just manipulation anymore. This wasn't emotional blackmail. This was a felony. My sister, in her desperation, had committed identity theft. All the years of her taking my time, my energy, my money, my clothes from my closet when we were teenagers had led to this. She had finally decided to take my name, my credit, my entire financial identity. She believed she was entitled to it just like she was entitled to everything else. The bank representative on the phone was asking me if I wanted to file a police report. Yes, I said, my voice low and steady. Yes, I do, but not just yet. First, I need to make a phone call. The anger wasn't hot and explosive. It was glacial. It was the kind of anger that doesn't scream but methodically and completely destroys. They had crossed a line from which there was no return. They thought I was a resource. They were about to find out I was a reckoning. I didn't call the police. Not yet. I went home and opened my laptop. I took screenshots of the fraud alert and the confirmation email from the bank. I saved the audio recording of my call with the fraud department. I gathered my evidence like a prosecutor building an airtight case. Then I initiated a conference call to my mother, my father, and Ashley. It took them a moment to realize they were all on the same line. "What is this, Ella?" my mother asked, her voice wary. "I'm glad I got you all at once. It saves me the trouble of repeating myself." I began, my tone as flat and sterile as a hospital corridor. At 2:10 this afternoon, someone applied for a Capital One credit card with a 20,000 limit using my name, my social security number, and my date of birth. The application listed the primary mailing address as 123 Oak Street. Silence. I let it stretch thick and suffocating. I knew that was Ashley's address. They knew it too. "Ashley," I said, my voice dropping. "Did you have something you wanted to tell me?" A choked sob came from her end of the line. I didn't know what else to do. "We're desperate, Ella. I was going to pay it back." "You committed multiple felonies," I stated, cutting through her pathetic excuse. "Identity theft, credit card fraud. You were willing to ruin my financial future to solve your temporary problem." "Ella, sweetheart," my father finally spoke. His voice strained. "She's your sister. She made a mistake." This wasn't a mistake. I snapped the ice in my voice, cracking just enough to show the fury beneath. "It was a calculated decision. And it has consequences." I paused, letting the weight of my words land. "So, here is what is going to happen. I am presenting you with two options. You have 1 minute to decide which one you will take." "Options," my mother whispered. "Option A," I said, "is that the three of you will be at my lawyer's office tomorrow morning at 900 a.m. You will sign a legally binding document, a familial disassociation agreement. It will state that you will never again contact me, my place of employment, or any of my friends by any means for any reason. It will also acknowledge your 14,000 debt to me, which I will agree to forgive in exchange for your permanent and total absence from my life. If you choose this option, I will not press charges." I let that sink in. "And option B?" Dad asked, his voice barely audible. "Option B is I hang up this phone, call the Raleigh Police Department and hand over my file of evidence. A warrant will be issued for Ashley's arrest. She will face years in prison, and I will do everything in my power to ensure she is prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. You have 50 seconds left to choose." The other end of the line was a chaotic mix of panicked whispers and sobs. They had spent my entire life holding all the power, leveraging my love and sense of duty against me. But in one desperate criminal act, they had handed me all the cards. They were no longer my family, demanding help. They were perpetrators, begging for mercy from their victim. "Well, be there," my father said, his voice heavy with defeat. "We'll sign the papers." I didn't say goodbye. I didn't say another word. I just ended the call. The next morning, they were at Miss Albright's office at 8045. They looked smaller, diminished under the fluorescent lights of the conference room. My mother's eyes were redimmed. My father's face was a gray mask of resignation. And Ashley stared at the polished surface of the table, unable to meet my gaze. I didn't speak to them. I let Miss Albright handle everything. She explained the terms of the agreement with brutal clarity. They would have no claim on me, and I would have no claim on them. We were in the eyes of the law, strangers. They signed their hands, trembling slightly. My father pushed the documents across the table, and for the first time in my life, I saw him not as a father, but as a defeated man who had enabled his family's toxicity for far too long. When it was done, they left without a word. I watched them go from the window. 3 people walking away from a life they had systematically tried to drain. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel sadness. I felt nothing but the quiet, clean emptiness of a space that has finally been cleared of clutter. Months have passed. The silence that followed is no longer jarring. It's peaceful. It's the sound of my life uninterrupted. My phone no longer feels like a potential landmine. My mornings are mine. My money is mine. My future is mine. The hole they left in my life was not a wound. It was a space that has since been filled with genuine friendships, a loving relationship, and the simple, profound joy of being the sole author of my own story. Sometimes I think about the choice I made. They pushed me to a point where my only options were to either be consumed or to cut the cord completely. I chose to save myself. If you were me, if your family ignored you for years but came back only for money, what would you do? A. Help them out of family loyalty. B. Refuse, but stay in touch. C. Cut them off completely to protect your peace. Comment your choice below. Because sometimes the hardest thing isn't forgiving them.